I have to praise you like I should. I have to praise you. I have to praise you. I have to praise you. I have to praise you like I should. Lose my mind, lose my mind, lose my mind, lose my mind.
Hey internet friends, let's begin with a question that I hope you will answer in the chat or in the comments. What are we being distracted from today? When I'm recording this video on Monday, June 1st, 2020 around 10 a.m., it's been 8 days since the death of George Floyd. Last night, we watched the White House go dark in the midst of the riots that are a direct response to this death and an outcry for police reform. We've witnessed a full week of peaceful protests as well as corporate and government-sponsored insurrection by this point. And in this short time, the media has pushed the virus out of the front seat of their moving vehicle, and now, riding shotgun, is civil unrest. The same people who, for months, have used fear to keep you locked inside your home, telling you that if you as much as had a barbecue with your friends and family, you'd be putting everyone at risk, speeding up their imminent and painful death. Basically, if you didn't stay confined inside your home, happily forgoing your paycheck, you clearly had no concern for this alleged public health crisis. And now they're the same entity that is telling you that if you don't go out and protest on the streets, or at the very least, become an outspoken advocate for those who are out on the streets, then you are, you guessed it, racist. Probably a white nationalist too. Or at the very least, a Trump supporter. Wow, you should be ashamed of yourself, you hillbillies. Meanwhile, the media is laughing all the way to the bank as they cash in fat checks off of all of this virus and riot entertainment. And when I say entertainment, that's exactly what I mean as we watch compromised rent-a-mob protesters burn down our cities as darkness blankets the streets. And between CNN and Fox News, we've got a good portion of Americans pitted against each other. 2020 has basically become this huge joke that isn't funny anymore. What's next after martial law? Civil War? Yellowstone eruption? World War III? All of the above? So while there's a lot of ground to cover between the video I made on Friday and today, from mysterious piles of bricks being planted and delivered to cities as the ultimate bait and suggestion, to Minnesota Congresswoman Ilhan Omar's daughter tweeting out a call for supplies over the violent Minneapolis riots, to the media shifting the narrative of the violent rioters and arsonists being exclusively white supremacists instead of bought and paid for agitators who throw the first brick or light the first match, and the rest of the sheep happily follow, to George Floyd and the offending officer having been co-workers at the same nightclub, to President Trump officially designating Antifa as a domestic terrorist organization, and then the White House going dark last night. Yeah, there's a lot to cover, but I want to highlight something that's been lost in the mix. First off, I want to introduce you to a guy that many of you probably already know, but perhaps a few of you don't. His name is Yuri Bezmenov, a former KGB agent who accurately predicted the current state of America almost 40 years ago, detailing a slow process to defeat America through psychological warfare and demoralization, through a slow roll process called ideological subversion, which he described as changing the perception of reality of every American to such an extent that despite the abundance of information, no one is able to come to sensible conclusions in the interest of defending themselves, their families, their community, and their country. Through the first phase of demoralization, which Bezmenov says takes place over 15 to 20 years, he says that through compromised individuals like politicians, teachers across the public school curriculum, college professors, news media, and entertainment, folks are programmed to think and react to certain stimuli in a certain pattern. He said that even if you prove that white is white and black is black, you still cannot change the basic perception and the logic of behavior. So it's a slow roll over the span of decades, so slow that the majority don't even realize it's happening. And if you were to prove to them that it wouldn't matter because the facts don't matter anymore. That's how you know the implementation of such a plan has been successful. I don't know about y'all, but I'm personally seeing this play out in my own social circles, particularly from people and professors whom I studied with in college, who cling so tightly to their own identity politics that nothing and no one could convince these highly educated individuals to even look outside their own mental tribalism. Every stimuli played out across their computer screens or their television screens sends them into a fit of emotional outrage. Yet they have no original talking points of their own, only regurgitations of those parroted across CNN or even Fox and late-night talk show hosts. Following demoralization is a 2 to 5 year period of destabilization, in which a nation's economy, foreign relations, and defense systems are targeted and weakened. And following the success of that, there would be the third stage, a good old crisis, one in which Bezmenov explains would bring a violent change of power, structure, and economy, and will be followed by the last stage, normalization. That's when your country is basically taken over and the people are living under a new ideology and reality. So let's say Bezmenov's words are true. Where do you think we are in this plan? If I had to guess, we're at the crisis stage. And while it isn't lost on me that everybody wants to rule the world, if I absolutely had to guess right now who was at the very forefront of the events we're seeing play out in our own hometowns, Russia wouldn't be my first guess. I mean, if you look at who owns the media, at who puts dollars in politicians' pockets, at who controls Wall Street, well, it ain't the Russians. But who we are seeing emerge out of the rubble that's been left behind from the virus chaos and rioting chaos is a technocracy or a technocratic society of sorts, which brings me to an important story that I feel has been lost in all of this. Okay, so many of you are probably old enough to remember contact tracing technology, which was proposed and implemented only a few months ago. Specifically relating to public health in the alleged public health crisis news story we ditched last week. Contact tracing in the medical arena is the process of identification of persons who may have come into contact with an infected person, and subsequent collection of further information about those contacts. The stated goal is to reduce infection across the populace, but even if you have a potato for a brain, you can see how this is a slippery slope to authoritarian control, as this technology is supposed to be implemented on all of our mobile devices, tracking us wherever we go. Well, it appears contact tracing is not for medical use only. Only a few days ago, it was revealed in a Minneapolis press conference that authorities had begun analyzing the data of the arrested rioters, tracking who they are associated with, what platforms they're using, and what organizations they're connected to.
We have begun analyzing the data of who we have arrested and begun actually doing what you would think is almost very similar to our COVID. It's contact tracing.
So you can see how a situation surrounding police brutality quickly became an opportunity for the technocratic regime, and a grab for more authoritarian control. Implementing data collection through contact tracing, tracking behaviors through testing the newest facial recognition software, which they announced only months ago they had the capabilities to do just by seeing an individual's eyes and eyebrows. So covering your face with a mask is no longer an effective means of concealing identity. We are so close to social credit scores that you can almost hear the audible friction of Bill Gates' hands rubbing together. I want to take a moment and be sensitive to those who have every right to be angry about the injustices of this world. I hear you and I feel you, and if you want to go out and protest, you should be able to do that in a peaceful setting that isn't infiltrated by COINTELPRO and rid of mobs with a combined IQ of par golf. You truly deserve better, but the fact of the matter is that you and I cannot control these things. We can only control how we react to them. And we live in a society where the younger generation is the outraged generation. You can count on them to respond to emotional triggers. They can be activated at a moment's notice. And they are sowing their own destruction as we speak, and with it, the destruction of our freedoms, the destruction of the United States of America. After all, there is no enemy more effective than the enemy from within. But I'm not here to blame useful idiots. On this channel, I maintain that the true enemy of the people are those who control politicians and the media, as they are the ones who promote the destruction of our society and of the family. And I'll just shoot straight here because I really do need to say this. I do believe a coup of sorts is taking place as we speak. And I believe we are closer to civil war than we've ever been. Does that mean it's gonna play out that way? No, of course not. Never discount the impact of the truly unpredictable. Does that mean you need to be afraid? No, I don't promote fear, just preparedness. Also, I need you to read The Last President by Ingersoll Lockwood, or if you want the cliff notes, just watch my video on it. The similarities are uncanny. So what do you think, internet friends? I need to hear your perspective on this. You know I always look forward to reading your comments. I put this video together rather quickly, just expressing some observations, concerns, and mainly just speaking from the heart. It's not my usual format, and while I do think there's merit and value in a polished and succinct presentation, I feel like now is not the right time or place for that. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, subscribing, and supporting my channel on Patreon. Bye!